Hey guys, Primal Swampy here. We're going to be doing another deck tech today featuring Golisopod GX. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get right into it. Start things off, we run 4 copies of Wimpod from Burning Shadows for the new ability Wimp Out. During your first turn, this Pokemon has no retreat cost. Comes in handy whenever you start with him, because he can retreat for free. Okay, then we run 3 copies of Golisopod GX. The attack we're going to be focusing on is First Impression. For a single grass energy, does 30 plus. If this Pokemon was on the bench and became your active Pokemon this turn, this attack does 90 more damage. So it can do 120 for one single grass energy. But we have ways of increasing that damage in the deck that I will show you later. And then a second attack, Armor Press, does 100 and takes 20 less damage during your next turn. Crossing Cut GX does 150. Switch this Pokemon with one of your benched. And he has 210 HP. Pretty bulky for a stage 1. Actually, I think that's about average, but a little more than Espeon and Umbreon. And then we run a single copy of Golisopod from Guardians Rising. Has the ability Armor. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. So essentially, he has 160 HP. Then he has the attack Resolute Claws, which is absolutely insane. Does 80 plus if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon GX or a Pokemon EX. This attack does 70 more damage. So he's hitting 150 damage with a choice band 180 to a Pokemon EX or GX, which is knocking out most basic ones. And he's just a stage 1 non-EX or GX, so I do enjoy running him in there with it. I think he's very underlooked. And for the Pokemon we're going to be pairing him with, if most of you watched Worlds, you know exactly what Pokemon he's going to be paired with. That's going to be Garbodor. And we run 4 copies of Trubbish. I would run 4 Acid Spray. I do recommend that one over this, but for some reason that's the only one I can find, so I have to run 3 of him. Acid Spray is a better attack than Stomp Off is, just in case you end up having to attack with him. And then we run 3 copies of Trashalanche Garbodor and 1 of the Garbatoxin. Most of these Golisopod Garbodor decks I see run a 2-2 of Trashalanche and Garbatoxin, but I think I'm just going to do a 3-1, because most of the testing I've done, 1's enough. You don't really need 2 in the deck, so I'm just going to stick with 1. Then we run a single copy of Tapu Koko, the promo. He has the attack Flying Flip, does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. And the best thing, free retreat. That's the main purpose that he's in here. That way we can just retreat him into Golisopod and rank up that damage. And last but not least, we run 2 copies of Tapu Lele GX for the Wonder Tag ability. And he can even attack with Energy Drive in this deck if needed to. And Tapu Cure GX, because we do run Rainbow Energies. Okay, and that is it for the Pokemon lineup. Pretty beefy Pokemon lineup. Has quite a bit in here. Moving on to the trainers, we run 4 copies of Ultra Ball. I guess I forgot to put supporters on top, so we'll do items first. Then we run 4 copies of Choice Band, does 30 damage, plus to Pokemon EX or GX. Hitting those magic numbers, Golisopod will be hitting 150 with First Impression. You can even put it on Tapu Koko, hit 50 on the active. Resolute Claws goes up to 180. Then we run 3 copies of Floatstone, mostly for Garbatoxin, so we can get that ability shut down. And we have something to retreat into, so Golisopod can keep his damage up. Then we run 2 copy of Field Blower, as every deck does. Then we have a couple one-ofs, Super Rod and Rescue Stretcher. And that is it for the item cards, a very short list of item cards. I did consider running Revitalizer, but I put Rescue Stretcher in instead. I think it works out better, but do with the deck what you wish. Okay, we move on to the supporters. Run 4 copies of N, which is the standard amount now. Then we run 3 copies of Professor Sycamore. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. We run 3 copies of Golisopod's best friend, Guzma. Switch one of your opponent's Pokemon. If you do, switch one of yours. And then we run 3 copies of Acerola. Put one of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it and all cards attached to it into your hand. Works really good with Golisopod. Say you have a damaged Golisopod in the active, without a way to retreat it, you can Acerola it up, and you have another Golisopod on your bench, and then you put him up, which powers up his first impression, while getting rid of the damage on Golisopod. Oops, sorry, almost knocked the camera over. Okay, then we run a single copy of Bridget. Search your deck for 1 basic Pokemon EX or 3 basic Pokemon, and then put them on your bench. Okay, and that is it for this trainer lineup. Move on to the energies. Run 4 double colorless. We use these to attach to, well, I guess you can attach to every Pokemon here, but mostly for Tapu Koko, and I guess if we need to use Crossing Cat GX and Resolute Claws, it works pretty good with that too. Moving on, we run 4 copies of Rainbow Energy. That way we can use our Trashalanche attack, and we can even use Tapu Cure GX, which I have used a couple times, and it saved me a couple games. I had a 2 damaged Golisopod on my bench, and Tapu Cure healed him up. And the last cards is 4 Grass Energies for our first impression attack. And that is it for the list. Probably not the best Golisopod Garbodor deck that there is, but I think it's one that works pretty good for me anyway. Do with it what you wish. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more Primal Swampy videos.